News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is resigning to help her husband confront a bone cancer diagnosis. President Trump says Aaron Lucas, Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, will serve as acting. Gabbard's resignation is effective June 30th. New Fed Chair Kevin Warsh has been sworn in as the 17th head of the Federal Reserve. He says he'll continue to pursue the Fed mandate, promoting price stability and maximum employment.
When we pursue those aims with wisdom and clarity, independence and resolve, inflation can be lower. To fulfill this mission, I will lead a reform-oriented Federal Reserve, learning from past successes and mistakes both, escaping static frameworks and models.
President Trump says he wants Warsh to be totally independent as the new Fed chair.
I fully expect that with the greatest Fed chairs before him, Kevin will safeguard the Fed's integrity. They'll make their own decisions and hopefully make them well. Thankfully, unlike some of his predecessors, Kevin understands that when the economy is booming, that's a good thing.
Goldman Sachs Vice Chairman and former Dallas Fed President Rob Kaplan tells Bloomberg that Warsh has a lot on his plate, but he'll do okay.
I think he'll be an excellent Fed chair. He's got a lot on his plate, especially in the next number of weeks. He's got to get prepared for that first meeting and the press conference and the dot plot explanation.
Hear more of our interview with Rob Kaplan on the Bloomberg Talks podcast. Fed Governor Christopher Waller supports making it clear that the central bank's next interest rate move is just as likely to be an increase as a cut.
I can no longer rule out rate hikes further down the road if inflation does not abate soon. And that is especially true if measures of inflation expectations, some of which have risen lately, show signs of becoming unanchored.
Waller described the inflation outlook as the bigger driver of policy now. Fed Governor Waller spoke at a conference in Frankfurt, Germany. And Waller's comments have bond traders fully pricing in an interest rate hike this year. It's a sign in the market that incoming Chair Warsh is going to need to move quickly to combat inflation. Stocks closed out its 8th straight winning week. We check the markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. S&P 500 gained 28 points. NASDAQ gained 51. The Dow gained 294 points. The WTI settled at less than $97 a barrel. Brent crude just over $104 a barrel. The bond market closed at 2 this afternoon for the long Memorial Day weekend, but the 10-year Treasury settled down at 4.5%, the 2-year at 4.12%. Consumer sentiment fell in May to a record low, 44.8, because of the war with Iran. It was weaker than all projections in a Bloomberg survey of economists. The University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index shows cost of living also continues to be a concern, with 57% of consumers mentioning that high prices are eroding their personal finances. Director of Consumer Surveys at the University of Michigan, Joanne Shu.
We had 57% of consumers providing unsolicited comments that high prices were weighing down their personal finances. This is a big jump from 50%. And 50% was also already really high. The last time we saw numbers like this, it was actually during the Korean War. And what's happening with gas prices is just compounding on top.
Director of Surveys, Joanne Shu. Micron President and CEO Sanjay Mehrotra tells Bloomberg the company is expanding U.S. chip production. He sees the memory chip shortage lasting beyond 2026.
Of course, the demand for memory has really surged. And yes, there is a shortage, but Micron is working hard to increase supply through these projects here in America, here in Manassas, Virginia, Boise, and New York. And we see this shortage continuing well beyond 2026 timeframe.
Hear more of our interview with Micron Technology President and CEO Sanjay Mehrotra on the Bloomberg Talks podcast. Micron shares fell 1.5% in regular trading. Sources tell Bloomberg that Anthropic is set to close its latest round of funding, which may top the $30 billion at a valuation above $900 billion as soon as next week. A judge has tossed the human smuggling case against Kilmar Ábrego García. District Judge Waverly Crenshaw granted Ábrego García's motion motion to dismiss for selective or vindictive prosecution. Judge Crenshaw said that without Ábrego Garcia's successful lawsuit challenging his removal to El Salvador, the government would not have brought the prosecution, and that many statements by the Trump administration officials are raising cause for concern. Trump administration officials have said Ábrego Garcia cannot remain in the U.S. They vowed to deport him to a third country, most recently Liberia. NASCAR driver Kyle Busch experienced shortness of breath, felt he was overheating, and was coughing up blood the day before he died. That's according to a 911 call obtained by the Associated Press. No cause of death has been given, although his family said earlier he'd been hospitalized with a severe illness just 3 days before he was set to compete in the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Kyle Busch was 41 years old. SpaceX is going to give it another try tonight. It delayed yesterday's test of its Starship rocket after a pin holding the tower arm in place failed to retract. The next launch window is open at 5:30 today Central Time. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.